There's never been a better time to have SiriusXM. With even more exclusive content, with over 150 channels in your vehicle, including the widest, deepest variety of music, ad-free. Root for your team. Get news. Listen to whatever makes you laugh. And hear all about your favorite stars. Your Platinum Plan offer includes more than ever before to enjoy online, on your phone, or at home. Create your own ad-free personalized stations powered by Pandora. Hear ad-free extra channels filled with music and enjoy favorite shows with SiriusXM Video. Thousands of hours of shows and performances on demand. What you love is on now.
So once upon a time long ago, there was a man who wanted to get more thump in the trunk. So he created a box that made a lot of sound that could play in his car. Well, that person was none other than Steve Irby, founder of Kicker. And that box was the original Kicker box. You got it. Today, we have Kicker on the show, and we're going deep with an amazing selection of enclosures that they've got for us. We've got product expert Kenneth Bundy will be joining us in studio today. And as along with Dave Singh from Gemsen. Don't you dare go away. This is CMA Connected, all about Kicker. And it starts now. Hey, what's going on, everybody? And thanks for tuning in to this another episode of CMA Connected, presented by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu. Today, of course, we're into the car audio themes, and we've landed on a juggernaut, and that is, of course, Kicker Audio out of Stillwater, Oklahoma, who's been making noise for so many years. And, when it came to thinking about car audio and what we're going to talk about Kicker, I had a chance to speak with Dave Singh from Gemsen, and it's going to be an interesting one because we're going to be streamlining today's conversation to focus on really a big category, well, at least for Kicker it is, and that is custom enclosures for all different situations, all different types of scenarios. So let's go ahead and get Dave on with me so I can pick his brain a little bit about what we're going to be talking about today. Hey, Dave, what's going on?
Hey, Ben, how you doing? Great to see you.
I'm doing really good.
Awesome.
So, I told a little story that everybody seems to know. Everybody knows this story about Kicker and the Kicker box originally from Steve. That's how the whole brand got kicked off. And, when we're talking about it, Kicker, they make everything, right? Whether it's the speakers or the subwoofers or amplifiers or the key solutions, there's pretty much too much to talk about in just one session. So when you told me that we're going to talk and focus about enclosures, you certainly had my interest peaked. Please explain.
Well, let's look at the heart of car audio. One of the biggest upgrades that anybody can appreciate when you're upgrading your audio system is the bass. That's the part that we enjoy the most. And you're right. There's so many different categories that Kicker participates in, but one of the largest selections of products that they offer are subwoofer enclosures. And I thought it would be a good chance and opportunity for everybody to take a look at the offering and remind them of all the cool products that Kicker's come out with and some cool products that have just started shipping recently.
I'll tell you, if you're tuning in now, you're a dealer, and you don't know, man, strap in. There are a lot of different enclosures that Kicker offers for a myriad of different scenarios, really. But before we get to that, I had a question for you, Dave.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you remember the first time you heard a Kicker box?
Yeah, lucky for me, I had a couple of uncles of mine that got me into the car audio bug when I was 14. So I'm 29 now, so that's like 15 years ago or something.
29, right? Mm-hmm.
Poorly aged. So, but one of my uncles had a Kicker sub enclosure with passive radio underneath, and that's the first time I heard that. And Kicker was the brand back then. They still are today, but particularly back then, when there wasn't that many car audio brands around, they were the dominating subwoofer brand out there. So I made sure that my first real system. I had 4 Kicker C15 subwoofers, so 15-inch subwoofers, in bandpass enclosures in my Ford Aerostar, and had a big Kicker sticker on the back of it. So although I wear many hats at Gemsen, There's many brands that we do too. Kicker was, the brand that kind of really got me started into car audio many, many years ago.
Very good. And you know what? I actually hear that story a lot. Your dealers have told me that. And in fact, you don't know this, and I'm going to tell you this, and because you don't remember meeting me. I do. I remember meeting you. Guess where I met you? Any idea?
I'm going to guess Performance World.
Performance World in Toronto. In what booth? That's right. The Kicker booth. That's where I met you first.
Oh,
so, yeah, there you go. All right. So, listen, luckily for us, we have the product global training expert from Kicker who'll be joining us today. His name is Kenneth Bundy. But before we do so, and before we bring him in, got a quick video to kind of set the mood to remind people just one of the different options that Kicker has as far as enclosures.
Our TP downfiring enclosures are a great addition to the Kicker lineup. We take a Comp RT 8-inch, 10-inch, or 12-inch subwoofer and add a bass reflex subwoofer to the same enclosure. The bass reflex subwoofer acts kind of like a port, so it gives you deep thunderous bass, but in a much smaller enclosure, and there's no port noise. So you get amazing bass response with none of the downsides associated with ported boxes. There are 3 sizes and a range of power from 300, 400 to 500 watts. Find the box that fits in your vehicle and then take the correct Kicker amplifier and you'll have incredible bass response. Now let's say that you want to put the box in, but you don't want the bad guys to know you've got a Kicker box in your car. Turn it around and now you can't even tell there's anything in the vehicle. And because they're downfiring and they're internally braced and well constructed, you can put heavy stuff right on top of the box without damaging the subwoofers. Dogs, cats, kids, strollers, golf clubs, whatever you got, right on top of the box, still have great deep sub-bass response. Be sure to audition these in your vehicle from an authorized Kicker retailer.
All right, Dave. So without further ado, and you know what, before we bring Ken in, I don't know, I'm a little suspicious of that shot with the feet standing on the boxes. What if they were just children?
It could have just been jumping shoes.
Maybe it's just jumping shoes. Let's find out. Let's get to the bottom of this. Let's go ahead and bring Ken Bundy, who's the product trainer for Kicker, into the studio with us. What's going on, Ken?
What's up, guys? That was most definitely full-grown men. That was myself and Aaron Malin there in the video. So together we are 400 plus pounds, bouncing up and down on that box. It'll take it all day. It's made for that.
Awesome, awesome. So Ken, listen, we've got a lot to talk about. We're going to give you the stage so you can go through. I see you already have some of the demos in front of you. But
we do.
Why? You know, if anybody's tuning in and you want to go to the website kicker.com, go check that out. Tons of enclosures, almost to the point like I didn't even know Kicker made so many. So I guess my first question to you, Ken, is why so many?
Well, first and foremost, we do have a very large assortment of subwoofers. So all the way from entry level to high end, and then also a whole lineup of shallow mount. And then on top of that, there are different vehicle applications. So, pickup trucks, hatchbacks, they're going to use a different box than maybe a excursion would, right? So maybe you have that downfiring design that was in the video you just showed, or maybe you do have the room for a full-size enclosure like we do have here on the table. Maybe you want 110, maybe you want 212s. So with that many woofers, that many variables in it, it makes for a whole lot of SKUs. But we got something for everybody.
And that totally makes sense because there's a whole bunch of different subwoofers, like you said, and there's a bunch of active ones in there as well, aren't there?
We do have some active versions that we'll cover today.
Amazing, amazing. Well, I mean, without further ado, I'd like to go ahead and give you the stage, and let's learn all about Kicker enclosures.
Sure. I'll try and cover as much as I can here for you guys. Just like Ben said, we do have an extreme assortment of loaded enclosures. Kicker is the largest manufacturer of preloaded enclosures. And now a lot of people, when they hear the term preloaded, they think prefab boxes, and prefab has a negative connotation to it. They think, well, you can't have your subwoofer in a prefab enclosure and have it sound the best that it possibly can. That's not what we're working with here. These are preloaded enclosures in the enclosures that were designed by the same engineers that designed the woofer themselves. So this box and this woofer were designed to go together. So you can feel confident you're going to get great results even though you're buying a box and woofer combo in it. But let's step through the lineup that we have. So it starts with the Kicker Comp, the iconic Comp name. folks may understand, you've been hearing that term kicker comp for like 20 years, right? And people think, well, then maybe that subwoofer is 20 years old. That's not what we have here. We don't have 20-year-old tech in the kicker comp. We have what's called trickle-down technology. It's technologies that we've learned work very well in our high-end subwoofers that over the years have trickled through the line and ended up all the way down into the kicker comp lineup. And let's go over a couple of those. So the kicker comp, it comes in a 10-inch and 12-inch version. We have the dual 12 also, but the comp subwoofer is going to be rated for 150 watts RMS. It's going to come with a UV treated foam surround as well as the ribbing on it. So you guys can see the ribs on this foam surround. The ribs are there to help reduce physical distortion. So as that subwoofer is moving in and out, the surround stays true, which allows you to keep control over that woofer. And it has polypropylene cone. As I said, 150 watts RMS, 4 ohm only. So this is going to be one of the only boxes that you're going to have 4 ohms right here at the terminal cup. And as you can see, we have a large flared port on the other side. The vast majority of our boxes are going to be ported. I'll cover them in depth if they are sealed, but 90+% of them are vented design. They're all going to be tuned about mid-30s, so anywhere from about 31 to maybe 36 hertz on most of our enclosures. So vented enclosure, kicker comp, 150 watts, 4 ohm at the terminal cup. But if you want a little bit more, and as we step up through the lines, the things you're going to notice what makes the next woofer in the lineup different from the one previous. A little bit more power handling, a little bit more excursion. It's going to equal a little bit more output. So that's what you're going to get with the next assortment we got here. It's going to be the Comp C. So the Comp C looks very similar. It is also a vented design. You can see we have a slot port on the side here, and it's going to be 2 ohm. So here on out, we're going to have 2 ohm at the terminal cup. That's going to pair up with whatever amplifier that you have. And you're still going to get the same UV treated rib foam surround. So again, people think, well, you know, foam surround, over the years, I've seen how those kind of, can fall apart over the years. Or so. This is treated with a UV coating, and it actually lasts a very, very long time. So still foam, polypropylene cone, double stitched. You can see the iconic yellow stitching that kicker's kind of been known for. We do have that on the Comp C, 300 watts RMS, and as I said, a little bit more excursion. So double the power handling, and you'll get a little bit more output out of the Comp C. But you tell me, Ken, I want more than that. What do you got? What else you got? So let's slide this kind of half out of the shot here, and I'll bring up the Comp R subwoofer and preloaded enclosure. Large flared vented port here on this side. It's going to be 2 ohm at the terminal cup, which is on the back. And while I got this shot right here, I wanted to point out, see how this box is slanted? So it's the same way on the Comp box as well as the Comp C box. The back is slanted so it tucks right up against that rear seat. So you can go ahead and tuck it right up against the back of the sedan or the hatchback seat, and you don't have any wasted space. So if the back of the box were just squared off, and of course the seat isn't perfectly, people sit a little reclined, right? So this will butt right up against the back of the seat. You don't waste any space. So that's kind of why the box is shaped that way. But in the Comp R, you're going to get more power handling, 500 watts instead of the 300 on the Comp C, 2 ohm at the terminal cup, and you also get upgraded to a ribbed butyl. This is Santoprene. Santoprene surround and the polypropylene cone, and it's a black on black look with the black cone with the black kicker emblem there in the center. Very, very cool piece. Larger box overall, but if you can fit it, you're going to get a lot more output out of this guy here. And when we talk about the Comp R woofer specifically, there is a feature that I wanted to point out to you guys. Ernie, maybe you can get a close-up of this. Last year, we came out with an update to the Comp R subwoofer, and that's going to be these holes right here on this back plate. Now, you guys have probably seen vented pole pieces and holes in the back of back plates before, but these are to a very, very specific diameter, and as well as the number of them that we're using. This is called forced air cooling. So the way this works is as the cone moves in and out, it actually sucks in cool air over the voice coil, and as the cone moves in, it would then expel that heated air from the voice coil out and then bring in cool air over and over and over and over again. Now people say, again, I've seen holes in, what's so special about that, Ken? I've seen that before. Well, again, it's the size. So for example, if you were to make these holes much larger, you think, well, then I can get more airflow in and that's more better, right? That's actually not the way it works. What we found is the air next to the voice coil then becomes stagnant. You actually do not get a push-pull effect until you have them tuned into a very specific diameter. So we did a lot of R&D on this, and this is an upgrade to the Comp R. We came out with this last year. So very cool upgrade, and you will get this whether you buy the subwoofer separately or you buy the preloaded enclosure that comes in the Comp R enclosure I just showed you. But Ken, I want more than that. We do have the L7R. So before we bring on this next box, I did want to show you guys the L7R, which I don't think I got a loaded enclosure here for the L7R, but that's going to be our entry level into the square subwoofer design. So square subwoofer is A lot more output, right? Square is more cone area than the circle. B, it handles more power than the comp R. The L7R, the 12 handles 600 watts RMS, a little more excursion, and that's an iconic look. Kicker's known for their square subwoofers. That's what we do. But I do have something that's very, very special when we talk about the L7R, and that is the Kicker Quad Box. We do have a short video. Ernie, if you can roll that, I'll voice it over. There we go, the Kicker Quad Box. There's something very special I wanted to point out to you guys. That is 4 12-inch L7R subwoofers together in one preloaded enclosure. It is double stacked birch ply on the top and bottom, both double stacked, 3/4 inch, so you got 1.5 inches on the top and bottom, two 2-ohm terminal cups, and there, if we pull the woofers out, you can see the construction. So not only is it birch ply, you see those large window frame bracing. It's a kerf port tuned to 31 hertz, so you get a lot of deep, thunderous bass from this enclosure. There, let's bring you inside, you'll see the corner bracing and that internal bracing between the two woofers. And then steel threaded inserts, who could forget about that? So if you do need to remove the woofers in and out of the box, you don't have to worry about stripping it out. So this is an absolute animal of a preloaded enclosure. See how that all goes together. Absolute beast. So guys, that is the Kicker Quad Box, an absolute animal. But if you don't have space in your car for a Kicker Quad Box, or maybe you're not trying to get quite that crazy, let's go to the other end of the spectrum. Let's talk the Comp RT. Comp RT box is going to be this guy right here. This is going to be a wedge-shaped box. We do have a couple of different orientations I'll show you here in just a second, but the Comp RT is our shallow mount subwoofer. This comes in a 6.5-inch, 8-inch, 10-inch, and 12-inch version, so you're going to get one active sub right here, one active subwoofer in that 6.5-inch, 8-inch, or 10-inch, and then a matching size bass reflex driver or passive radiator over here. And just like that opening video that you guys saw that Ben played for us, it acts a lot like a vented enclosure. So this acts a lot like a port. You get better low frequency extension, a little bit more output, but without some of the disadvantages of a ported box, like port noise, for example, or of course the port itself taking up volume inside the box. So as this subwoofer moves in and out, you'll see the bass reflex driver move in and out, and that's kind of how that works. It does have to be tuned specific for the enclosure volume and for the woofer you're using, and we've done all that work for you with this preloaded enclosure design. But on that note, if you do want to build your own enclosure, you love the Comp RT, but maybe this particular shape doesn't fit in the particular car where you need it, we do sell the passive radiator separately. This is a 12-inch here. So this is just the passive radiator diaphragm that is sold separately. So if you want to design your own box and you want to use a different subwoofer or something like that, we do sell these separately, and we do have enclosure specifications on kicker.com. So get you at least in the ballpark of where you need to be, and then you can adjust the weight as you see fit on the rear of it to tune it to your particular liking. Very cool setup. But we talked about the shallow mount designs, but we also want to talk about a different form factor when it comes to our preloaded enclosures, and that's our down-firing designs. So we're going to start at the beginning of the line here with the Kicker Comp, right? The iconic Kicker Comp in a down-firing design. So as you guys saw in that opening video, there's a lot of advantages to that down-firing. It loads off the floor of the car, so you get a lot of deep thunderous bass, and it protects the woofer. You don't ever have to buy a grill for the subwoofer or worry about things in your trunk poking a hole in the surround or something like that. You know, tennis shoes and basketballs kicking it. You don't have to worry about children kicking it or dogs kicking it. So it protects the woofer, and then you can still stack stuff on top of this enclosure. So you don't lose a lot of utility of your sport utility vehicle. Or if you want to put tools on top of it. Hey guys, occasionally I take luggage in my car and I got to pull my subwoofer box out of it because I don't want to damage any. Don't worry about it. If you got a down-firing box, just go ahead and throw your luggage on top of it, your groceries on top of it, maybe a child's stroller, whatever it is. It's meant for that. So this carpet is very, very durable. It's all rugged, and then it is internally braced as well. So it is all 3/4 inch MDF, and then you're going to have corner and edge bracing also. And then another box we're going to talk about here in just a second, there is window frame bracing right in the middle of it. Again, you saw us jumping up and down on top of that box. It will handle hundreds of pounds pounding on top of it. It is built for that utility style environment. But, so this is the Kicker Comp version. It is 150 watts 4 ohm because that's what the Kicker Comp comes in. And you can see we do have that iconic Kicker stitching on the front. But if you don't want the bad guys to see what you got, you can spin it around, and now it's just a big black box. And I think most people probably would just move on to the next car. They wouldn't even realize that that's necessarily a down-firing subwoofer. So that is an option if you don't really like the kicker stitching. Just go ahead and pass it around. However, if you want more output than what the kicker comp can provide, the next step is going to be the comp VT. It's going to be this guy right here. Sorry, guys. So as you can see, this is the comp VT design, 2 ohm here at the terminal cup, and it is a down-firing design. You can see it's a little more shallow than the comp. If I can get that comp box back, we'll go ahead and put them side by side for you guys. It's about a little bit more of an inch, maybe 1.25 inches shorter overall, handles a little bit more power, and to be honest, the comp VT is a very, very sensitive sub, so you're going to get a lot of output per watt that you put into it. Overall, smaller package, even more output, comp VT. Ken, I want more than that. I want more than the comp VT. Quit screwing around, Ken. Give me the good stuff. That's going to be this guy. That's going to be the video that you guys saw. This is the TRTP. So it has the comp RT active subwoofer along with that matching size passive radiator. And right here in the middle is a large window frame brace made to hold a ton of weight. You can stack weight on all of them, but the comp RT is the one that has the window frame brace in between the active and passive radiator sub. So this one right here, the TRTP 10-inch model handles 400 watts. The 12-inch model handles 500 watts. They're all going to be 2 ohm here at the terminal cup, so they'll pair up with whatever monoblock amp you have. And again, even more shallow than the CVT. So again, you've probably say 3/4 inch. So more shallow yet, handles more power, got the base reflex driver to give you even more output. This thing pounds. Ken, I need more than that. I need more than that. The comp RT is great sub, but I want more than that. What else you got? We should have an L7T down firing laying around here somewhere. I just put it down? No, I didn't. Oh, I did just put it down. Or somebody did. Oh my goodness, this thing is heavy. This is the L7T. That is a shallow mount L7. So square driver, guys. Now we're not screwing around. We're talking more Coney area, which of course in the in-game moves more air, which means more output. So this is going to be, again, 2 ohm here at the terminal cup. The L7T 10-inch handles 500 watts. The 12-inch handles 600 watts. And it is roughly the same height. The TRTP is about gone. It's roughly the same height as the TRTP, but it's a little shorter overall. So if maybe you don't have quite the length to have the active and the passive side by side, the L7T gives you a slightly smaller package, handles a little bit more power, more cone area equals more output. Ah, we're good. That's not, yeah. Again, all those downfires are great, but maybe I need something that's maybe a little more robust because I want to put it in my side-by-side. Maybe I have a Jeep Wrangler, and that's what we're going to talk about right here. And this is going to be the TB 8 and 10-inch. So this is the TB 8 and 10-inch. What you're seeing now is the vertical mount and the horizontal mount. Both sizes come with both mounting options. So we have the 8-inch currently in the vertical mount orientation. You can pick whichever one you need for your particular environment. I actually like the vertical mount a lot, so if you don't have a large footprint to mount woofers in your Jeep Wrangler or maybe your side-by-side, sometimes you can fit 2 subwoofers side-by-side and the amount of space that one would fit horizontally, right? More bass is always good. So we're going to rock and roll with the Comp RT8 and the Comp RT10. You're going to get one active subwoofer in one side, and then one matching size bass reflex or passive radiator in the other side. These are going to be both 2 ohm and 4 ohm versions, so you can match up with whatever your particular amplifier that you have. Very cool setup. Again, all-weather design. If you guys have seen, I'm sure everybody out there has seen subwoofers in this tube-shaped design. These are a little bit different. They're built like a tank. These are all-weather, and they weigh quite a little chunk too. So if you ever get an opportunity to see one in person, make sure you give it a lift. You're going to be pretty impressed with the build quality of them. Built like a tank, made for that Jeep environment, made for marine. So if you guys are doing boat installs, like I said, side-by-side, a Polaris General, a Razor, whatever it is, the TB 8 and 10 are good options. Ken, I don't even have space for that. I want the smallest thing you got. I don't even have room for a separate subwoofer and amplifier, under seat options. And that's what we got right here on the table next to me now. This is the HS8 and the HS10. So the HS8 is both of these are amplified subwoofer modules, all built in. These are really meant for more underneath seats. So I would caution you guys, never put them in a trunk. So they offer a lot of great output for what they are. 8-inch driver with 150 watt built-in amplifier. This one's going to be 180 watt built-in amplifier. Very cool design that it just comes with high-level inputs. You can run RCA to it if you need it, but it comes with speaker-level inputs. So if you're just trying to add bass to that factory system, you can run that directly into the input harness. And in fact, the input harness also comes with full-length power and ground wire too. So if you need power wire that runs all the way up to the battery, that's included in the box. Bass knob included in the box. Everything you need to just add more bass to that factory system is included in the box with the Hideaway. Now the Hs10 even takes that a little bit step further. The Hs10 has what we call Fit Plus built into it, meaning you can put very high level inputs directly into the inputs of this, up to 40 volts of input, or it's equal to about 400 watts from that factory system. So even if you have maybe a factory 8-inch subwoofer and you just want to add a little bit more bass and throw this under a front seat, just splice into those factory 8-inch sub wires, run them right into the inputs. You do not need a separate line output converter or any type of module to dumb down that signal. Just run that high-powered signal directly into the Hs10, run power up to the battery, you're done. So you get quite a bit of output, HS8 or the Hs10. And in terms of sizing, honestly, the Hs10 is only about, I think our engineers told me, about 4% larger in terms of volume. So if you've got room for the HS8, you've probably got room for the Hs10. Definitely recommend the Hs10 whenever possible. But I think that is the crash course on our loaded enclosures. Ben, you got anything to add? Did I miss something? I'm sure I probably missed something.
Well, I'll tell you what. First of all, it felt like a crash course, like I was doing a speed dating thing with all those different subwoofers that you were doing.
Right.
But I mean,
so which one did you like? Which one are you going to take on a date?
Oh my God, it all depends on which car. Like I like many people, I got different whips, and I can totally see, you know, the application based on the design. But I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you a chance, Ken, to grab a breather. We've got another video we can play, and when we come back, we're going to discuss everything that you just taught us. All right?
Okay, sounds good.
Back.
The HS8 Hideaway has been massively successful for Kicker for many years. So we challenged our team of engineers to come up with the next big thing, or should I say little thing. What they came up with is called the Hideaway Hs10. The Hs10 improves over the HS8 by adding more power, 180 watts versus 150, and a larger woofer, 10-inch versus 8-inch. And it's almost the same size as the Hs8. In fact, if you already have an Hs8, like I do my Mazda CX-5, you can actually unplug the harness from the 8 and install the 10, and you're done. Super, super simple. The improvements of the 10 versus the 8, obviously more cone area, more power, but in addition, we have increased the input voltage for the high-level input. If you've got a truly high-powered factory-installed audio system, but you still need more bass, the high-level inputs will accept up to 40 volts, which is the equivalent of 400 watts at 4 ohms. So almost any high-powered factory-installed audio system can go straight into the Hs10, and you'll have great bass response. In addition, we have what's called DC offset. That means the amplifier in the Hideaway will turn itself on and off with the car. So you don't have to go trying to find a switched ignition lead. This simplifies your install dramatically. So what if you've got an aftermarket radio with RCA outputs? Well, we've got a simple addition for that as well. The KISL simply takes your RCA output and converts it to speaker level output. So the Hs10 can be easily added to your aftermarket radio as well. Included with the Hs10 is a remote bass knob. So if you want to dial back the bass or bump it up, you can do that remotely from your dash. Very simple installation, great bass response. Take a factory system and make it incredible, or even upgrade an aftermarket system as well. So whatever you need, great bass, small package, Hs10 Hideaway.
There you are. Okay, so that was Aaron showing us the under-seat solution. So you asked me a question before the break. You said, Ben, which one will I like? Would I take? And you know, the true answer is all of them. It all depends on the situation. So I'd like to just go back a little bit to the beginning of your presentation. You were kind of showing the more traditional wedge style, you know, the type of box that we're all used to and we all grew up on. Now, many different type of comp situations. Now, is it truly more from a dealer perspective? Because there's a lot. Do you have a recommendation of how I should approach in putting inventory in my store? Because obviously I wouldn't be able to afford, you know, going too deep on all of them. So what would you
Right, of course.
break that down for me?
Nobody wants to carry all those SKUs in their store just for loaded enclosures, just from one manufacturer, no less. So I'd probably recommend, first and foremost, you know your customers better than anybody else. So do you have a lot of customers that come in that are looking for value-oriented, entry-level type stuff, or are they looking for the high-end stuff, and you rarely get the folks that just come in looking for the blue light special, so to speak. So first, know your customers, and you can probably pick out which side of that spectrum you need to be on, budget, entry-level, or high-end. But other than that, I'd recommend, usually we have people have the most success when they're more purpose-built enclosures. So those down-firing enclosures or those wedge-shaped enclosures, because they fit in many more vehicles. So if you're dealing with a crew cab pickup truck and you can throw a down-firing enclosure underneath that crew cab seat, the rear seat, great, that fits, whereas a full-size enclosure wouldn't. However, if you got an SUV or even a lot of hatchbacks or sedans, the down-firing enclosure still works in those cars and still works very well, in fact. So don't sleep on the down-fire design would be my recommendation there.
I'm not going to lie, the downfire design has certainly increased its footprint in popularity in the last few years, specifically for the reasons that you pointed out, Ken, the durability, the incognito-ness of it all, the space savings. So my question to you, for those that haven't actually given downfiring subs a listen, if you took the same subwoofer, let's call it the Solo Barrack 10-inch, for example, and you put it in a regular wedge-style box, that model, versus the downfiring model, how would you describe the difference?
So it's going to be different on every single vehicle, depending on how far it is away from the listener, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of physics that come into play. But generally, you do hear a little bit more output when it's loaded off a solid surface like the floor of your vehicle.
Really? Wait. To understand, are you saying that the downfiring would better perform?
Sometimes, again, it depends. And where are you going to aim the standard enclosure? If it's aimed at the back wall of the vehicle, a rule of thumb for years and years was having that enclosure as far rearward as you could, facing the taillights, is what's kind of been the rule of thumb when you have subwoofers installed. So sometimes you get loading off the rear of the vehicle, so they'd be pretty comparable. But if you're in a listening room per se, and we're just trying to compare apples to apples and ignore a lot of those other variables, then downfiring wins pretty often.
Well, I'll tell you, it makes sense because you look at home theater. Every sub that I've seen is always downfiring, so it makes a lot of sense. So the reason why I brought that up for dealers tuning in is, don't think for a second that just because it's a smaller footprint, smaller overall size, and it's downfiring, something you're not accustomed to, doesn't mean you're not going to get that awesome sound quality that you would expect from Kicker, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. And rather than taking my word on it, read our reviews, guys. I mean, these boxes have been out there, especially the TRTP has been out a few years now, and we can't keep them in stock. Everybody loves them.
Now, I understand one of those models is actually a new edition, is it not, or a recent edition?
So you're probably talking about so we came out with the TRTP, the one with the active and passive sub. That came out first, and then it did so well that we came out with the whole lineup. So the Comp, the CVT, and the L7T downfiring were added later.
Nice. And, it's nice to have a budget entry level or a high value one with that Comp and a downfiring configuration, right?
Exactly.
Dave, I'd like to hear you chime in about this downfiring business.
Well, the downfiring enclosures for everything that you guys said is 100% valid. I mean, one of the questions or one of the things that comes up from dealers is, sometimes customers want to go with a thinner profile box, like a truck style box, strictly on space, but they don't want to put it in the trunk of the car and have it topple over all the time. And I would love to say that people secure them and screw them down and make sure that won't happen, but most of the time that's not the case. So the downfiring enclosures, are definitely attractive for that. And I love the design of them. I think they're fantastic. I mean, they're super rigid, super strong. Like Ken was saying, downfiring definitely does give you that added benefit of additional bass. And you don't have to worry about, grills or poking in cones or, your golf clubs making a hole in the speaker, so it also adds a layer of protection. So these things are great. They're doing really well. We're super excited that now we got the L7T, which is the thin version of the L7 enclosures that just started to arrive at Jensen. So those are going to do really well.
I'm going to add one more insight, and it's you tell me if I'm accurate on this, but I feel like with the downfiring, another advantage for the user anyhow, is you know how many cars, whether it's a compact SUV, a hatchback, whatever, has folding seats and they're 60/40, right? So sometimes if you had a big wedge box, you can't really turn it 90 degrees sometimes because you may not have that depth necessarily in your trunk. So if you want to get like a golf bag in or something big, lengthwise, you'd have to fold down your seat. I feel like with this, you could kind of take this, put it sideways, and still have that access to use that length in your trunk and still have your bass going. So you kind of like best of both worlds scenario. That's what I think.
If you have one of those ski access holes in the back of your truck, you can still go to Home Depot and buy 2x4s and throw them in the back of your truck without having to take out the sub enclosure. So, another benefit for sure.
All right. Here's one for you, Ken. I mean, I think you brought up a lot of features and benefits as far as a couple specific models. But overall, if I was to ask you, obviously Kicker is very heavily invested in these enclosures. What would you say are some of the key factors that really separate Kicker enclosures from perhaps some of the other ones on the market?
Well, like I started off our section with, and these are not prefab enclosures. These are not just our subwoofers that we slapped in a vented enclosure, a random vented enclosure. We've designed this specific enclosure to go with that specific woofer, and that ranges throughout the sizes. So it's a different enclosure for a 10-inch. It's not just a smaller hole. The entire enclosure is different for the 10-inch, for the 12-inch, for the Comp R, for the Comp C, for whatever it is. That box that you're buying goes with that exact subwoofer, and the research and development team that we have under this roof in Stillwater, Oklahoma, designed both of those pieces to work together. So it is completely different than just buying our sub, from somewhere and then just buying again, I don't want to call it any brand names, but buying a random vented enclosure or sealed enclosure that's designed for any subwoofer. Mm-hmm. And it's well built too. So we have a lot of manufacturers out there that use 1/2-inch or maybe 5/8 inch MDF. All of ours are 3/4 inch MDF, and then the quad box being birch ply. So that's kind of that's the cream of the crop right there.
Not only is it cream of the crop, you called it the animal. It is the absolute behemoth and most overkill box I think that exists on the market. So Kicker definitely gets the ribbon for that one. In the market where everybody's like, oh, I don't want to lose my trunk. Here Kicker comes and puts out something monstrosity like the quad box, and it's awesome to see. Here's some more questions for you. So as far as the passive radiator, or what did you call it? I'm sorry, I didn't catch the term.
Base reflex driver, passive radiator. Depends. Some people prefer one term or the other. Same difference.
All right. So if we wanted to better explain or describe the benefits of having one, so let's look at this. Let's say we had a sealed 10-inch box with a 10-inch sub. Right next to it, you have a 2 10-inch subwoofer box, obviously double the volume, double the output. So you have 100%, you have 200%. Now you have this interesting Kicker model in between that uses a 10-inch active and then puts this passive radiator. So where would you rank that in between the two boxes as far as output?
In terms of output.
Like how much more would I be gaining with a passive radiator than without, and what are the benefits to that?
So it sounds more like a vented enclosure, and in your example you said they were both sealed enclosures. So you generally get a little stronger bottom end out of the passive radiator design and more output. So generally when you move from like a sealed to a vented, if you're talking strictly rule of thumb, again in this eliminate the variables type of scenario, you gain about 3 dB. Again, you gain about 3 dB if you were to add a second subwoofer. So it'd be pretty close in output to the dual sub sealed enclosure in your example there.
Well, which is incredible. So from a value proposition to the customer, you're looking at those enclosures that include the passive radiators, and it's not like it's double the price, right? It's a little bit
absolutely
more,
not.
But you're gaining so much more benefit, and I think it's a great talking point at the point of sale to customers who may not be aware, or maybe have never bumped into a scenario, or anybody else who's ever shown them what a passive radiator can do. So from a dealer perspective, I think that's pretty cool. Dave, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. And 3 dB is not necessarily cheap to attain. You usually have to double your power or double your woofers. And although amplifier power is getting cheaper, the electrical systems in cars to sustain that amplifier power isn't getting any better. So whenever possible, using things like a passive radiator or a ported box, give you that extra 3 dB almost for free. So love the passive radiators. They're fantastic.
All right. I had a question about the tube style the 8-inch and the 10-inch. Now, you mentioned that those would be great for Jeep applications where space is limited in trunk. Also, perhaps into side-by-sides, right, where you want to get some thump in an open environment. Did I hear, are they marinized as well as far as weather? Can they be put on a boat environment?
Yep, absolutely. So they are all weather. They're designed, you can spray them with a hose. They're sealed off for that exact environment, whether it be in the marine world, the side-by-side world, or of course you're rolling with no top on the Jeep Wrangler. That's what that system was designed for.
So Kicker and Jemson probably ain't going to be happy with what I'm about to say next, but I'm going to say it anyways. Guys, if you want to show a value product to customers that you know have multiple toys, like a boat, like a side-by-side, maybe a Jeep or a pickup, that thing could be unplugged and literally transplanted into any situation you want. Especially, and the reason I bring this up is not because I don't want you guys to make more sales, but in Canada, we've got lots of guys with ATVs in the summer and boats, right? And maybe another situation they want to put in their truck in the winter or whatnot. So I think there's a lot of value there in something like that, which is kind of unique, really, that if you have the terminals ready to go, then you can just remove and move around in an outdoor environment. Something to think about. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're talking was like for demo, right? So you can demo it for your customers.
Right.
You can easily take. Yes. Yeah. So we used to call that sub on a rope back in the day. Rope being the long speaker wire. So you got 30 foot of speaker wire. You can take it out from your shop with your amplifier, your power supply, your everything, and then actually set it in the customer's car, close the trunk lid, whatever it is, so they can listen to it in that car environment versus, of course, on your show floor.
Amazing. More guys should do that. Honestly, I think that's a lost art that needs to be revived.
I think we have gotten a little bit lazy, doing that, because I remember many retail shops that did that, and I guarantee 9 times out of 10, when that subwoofer enclosure went in the trunk, it didn't come out.
Dude,
exactly.
My local shop when I was growing up had the little cart with the power supply, right? And they put the box in your trunk, and exactly like you said, it was awesome. All right, let's take a look at the business side of things. From the beginning of the show, Dave, we said that we're going to focus on enclosures. Let's make no mistake, Kicker does a lot of other things as well. Today we talked about enclosures. Remind dealers, why is it so important that you focus on having enclosures in stock on your showroom floor?
Well, I mean, we just went through some of the enclosures. There's a dozen plus enclosures, and we didn't have enough time to go through it. So at the end of the day, the Kicker offering reflects price points for every budget that's out there, and having them on the floor certainly saves you a lot of time. Let's be honest, it's challenging to have a woodwork room for some shops. Some shops don't even have that capability anymore, so to build custom boxes is out of the question. Looking at the Kicker offering, now you can find a selection to accommodate your particular customer, and having that on the floor, I mean, like I said, if you do that demo, bring it out to the guy's car and let them hear it. 9 times out of 10, they're going to take it. You don't have that luxury if you don't have it in stock and you have to say, well, let me bring it in for you, and there's a couple weeks that may pass by. There's always that opportunity for somebody to cancel on the sale or, have a change of mind or whatever. So being able to react instantly and let the guy hear the thing right away, it's going to have a better chance of you closing that sale immediately. So definitely bring him in.
And I would take Ken's lead in the way he presented. Oh, is that not enough for you? Here we have this, and just have everything lined up, ready to go, so they can't say no, right? They can't say no. Ken, final question for you before we let you go.
Okay.
What message do you have for dealers? I mean, there's a lot of boxes. They're purpose built, like you said, all for different scenarios, from under seat to outdoor to loud to huge to tiny. What message do you have for dealers?
So these preloaded enclosures save you guys time, save your dealers time. So like you said, it's great to have them in stock so you can demo it for people, but just think even from, let's take the quad box for an example. How long would it take your installer or your builder to build an enclosure like that, including the carpet, including everything else, and then get it loaded into the car with the amplifier to power it, et cetera, et cetera? You're talking, usually at least a full day, probably more than a full day's worth of work. The quad box or any of our preloaded enclosures, they're grab and go and they're designed to perform great. So that customer can roll in, cash in hand, and roll out 2 hours later bumping. So you can throw in the quad box and maybe 2 CXA 1200.1 amplifiers, and he's rolling out of the shop doing 150 dB, and you had no work. So easy money, easy sales. The preloaded enclosures from Kicker are amazing.
And remember, it's the box that started it all.
Yes, sir.
There you go. Can't thank you enough for coming in today, man. Professional, top notch as usual, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Take care.
Thanks, Ken.
All right, Dave. So closing remarks. I think we did it. We showed all the different type of scenarios, right? Let's just review. You've got your traditional wedge style, singles, doubles. You've got your down firing now. I think there was like 3 or 4 different models of down firing, depending on the subwoofer and the performance and power handling that you want. You've got the outdoor tube style, all weather. So for that scenario, Kicker's got you covered. We even have the underseat active ones that take high level inputs.
So
easy OEM integration and takes a ton of voltage. So don't even worry. I don't think there's a vehicle on earth that that thing can connect to easily. So having said all that, what do dealers need to know other than call you and order you some Kicker enclosures?
Well, inventory is good. It's getting better, so that's an important thing. I think that's something that's been on dealers' minds for the last little bit. Can they get stock? And we are getting lots of stock in continuously. So we're packed to the gills right now. So that's good news, and we can accommodate pretty much every request out there. But I really do want to encourage guys to bring some in. Like I said, there's more than a dozen different models. And whether you like round woofers, you want to maximize cone area and go with square woofers, which Kicker pioneered. We have something for every price point, for every budget. You might want to just start with a small Hideaway box. That's all you need to just give you a little bit of extra bump, or go all the way to the quad box. I mean, there's something for everybody, but having it in your store, having it on display, and being able to do a demo is really going to make a huge difference in the boxes, the success of your sales of the boxes. And last but not least, got to really hammer home how well built these boxes are. Having one solid piece of wood is extremely rigid, strong. It's going to, last thing you want to have is boxes that are falling apart at seams and that sort of stuff. And when you have high performance woofers like these Kicker subs, you want to make sure you're not putting it in an El Cheapo box that will blow apart and break and, cause you grief and your customers grief. So there's not a better match.
I got to say, some of the carpeting work on some of the roundness and, the edges and all that is kind of trick as well. So be warned, if you want to attempt that, go for it. I'm not saying that nobody can do it, but it is definitely next level carpeting skills. And, although they only put it on one side for good reason, there's something about that, that embroidered logo. It's kind of, one notch up.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the embroidery adds another level of, coolness to the enclosures. And they look beautiful. They're well-built boxes.
All right. Well, Dave, I think we wrapped it up. Thank you so much for coming in today and setting us up with Kicker and learning all about their enclosures, man.
Yeah, thanks for everybody who tuned in to watch and learn about our enclosures. And reach out to us if you got any questions. We'll be happy to help you out.
Get a hold of Jemsen. Get a hold of Dave's team. They'll set you up with some Kicker. Take care, Dave.
Thanks, Ben.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. We've got some announcements we want to make sure you know about. Now, if you haven't already heard, we've got an awesome contest going on right now on Facebook. That's right. We've partnered up with 5 Axis Innovations. And what we're doing is we're giving away a free custom interactive sound damping display that the guys at 5 Axis will totally customize, put your store's name on it and the choice of dampening material that you want, and ship it right to you so you can have this in your showroom. So easy to enter. Make sure you check out our Facebook page, so CMA Networks Facebook, and then you'll see the post. And all you got to do is like our page, like 5 Axis' page, and make sure in the comments you write down your shop name and where you're located. And we're doing the draw on Wednesday, June 8th. That's right, Wednesday, June 8th. We also want to remind you to continue tuning into CMA Networks for our car audio sessions that are ongoing. We've got premium brands each and every day, one-on-one. We go deep all the way through June 14th. And last but not least, of course, I know you've already been to cmanetworks.com. We've got hundreds of videos all archived where you can search by either brand, by category, or by your favorite trainer. And get your learn on by visiting cmanetworks.com. That's it, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in to this CMA Connected presented by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu. Until next time, we connect.
I mean, yeah, let's talk about
Stop
you know
it.
what today where I'm going to
Yo.
topics.
Roll it down. I am.
You don't need a car to listen to Sirius XM. You can listen anywhere. You know that, right?
What? Kevin Hart's Laugh Out Loud Radio.
Kevin, you could use your phone.
What? What?
Alexa, play Kevin Hart's Laugh Out Loud Radio on Sirius XM.
What?
This is how I know you're getting old. I guess that was it.
What?